guys all hate God so much.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Drexel Free Thought Society Weekly Podcast. The Drexel Free Thought Society is the only secular organization at Drexel University, and we're reasonably proud of that. Every week we try to have some kind of topic that has us talking, has us engaged in some kind of intellectual conversation. I don't know why I made little rabbit ears, but I did.
Quotation marks?
Yes, I quoted myself while I was talking, because I'm that kind of awesome. My name is Dave McDevitt. I'm the president of this organization. And can you close the windows?
But it was such a nice breeze coming until that truck went by.
It's loud, I'm sorry. We're all gonna have to suffer.
I don't want to suffer. I do that enough already.
Anyway, this week our topic is growing up atheist or raising atheist kids. I guess we can all just kind of go around, and since I don't think any of us have children at the moment, we can at least go...
Well, there's something I need to tell you.
Good one, Izzy.
Alright, Dante, you want to start us off?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I am Dante, and I am the Vice President of the Drexel Free Thought Society. And for those of you who don't know, I am an atheist. And I wasn't raised atheist, so to speak. I was raised in a family.
Like everyone else.
I didn't finish. That considered themselves Baptists. So at one time, yes, I did believe in God. But I'm not going to go too in-depth because this is an introduction. But I don't see how raising a child in a secular setting can be a really bad thing. But I'm going to give the other guys a chance to chime in on this before I get too in-depth.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Aksa. I'm actually not an atheist. So I'm actually here mostly just to hear what everyone has to say and then maybe put in my 2 words about it, but I really don't have a stand on it right now.
2 words?
Oh.
Speak very loudly, you're far away.
Right.
Well, come closer, there's another chair.
Oh, that's true. Hi, I'm Isabel. I am an atheist. What was I going to say? I actually did grow up in a non-religious household. So, I do have a lot to say on this topic. This topic is very interesting to me. So, yeah.
Come closer.
I'll make space for you. There you go. We're just waiting for David to check out the audio. Give us a second, please.
Still not hearing anything. And it's not even letting me play it.
Internet people, can you hear us?
Wait, there's a chat room here. Audio sounds odd. Maybe this way we take care of these technical difficulties. Can you hear us clearly now?
I don't know why I want them to play.
Might have to can you refresh or anything? This thing's a time killer. Can you hear us, for those who are in the chat at the moment? Or the loud truck in the background? Okay, she says yes, she can hear us. Alright, you can hear us clearly. You can hear the words coming out of my mouth, correct? Just sounds a bit distorted slightly. Okay. I might be too close to it or something. Move yourself out of the way. That's doing it too.
Okay, I don't know why I can't hear us, but if everyone else can, whatever. Go on, Izzy.
Oh, I pretty much finished.
Oh, okay. So I guess it's my turn.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Surprisingly enough, I am actually an atheist.
Really?
Wow, I did not know that.
The shocked faces around this table are... I'm getting daggers thrown at me right now.
Wow. That's a shame.
Also, people are staring at me. Anyway, I was raised in not a religious family at all. I think I went to church like 3 times in my life, and that was when I went to other people's houses. And each time it was just kind of like, I don't know really what I'm doing here.
I've been to church more than you have.
Probably. I think I've been there. I think I count the number of times I've actually been to churches, and they're all different churches. Anyway, we celebrate Christmas, we celebrate Easter, but it was always the family/materialism kind of celebrating. We had a nativity scene, but I never really put 2 and 2 together. It was just kind of like, oh, we put up a tree, we put up the nativity scene. It's just the thing you do. And I dabbled in religion. It's like in hard times of hardship, I would pray to see if something would happen. Nothing ever did. I made up my own religion, which was way cooler. We were called
about this, yeah.
We were called Ascensions. We worshipped the idea of several essences of existence, including luck, fate, death, and some 4th one that I never seem to remember.
Wait, how old were you?
Like 12.
Okay.
So that was fun. What was actually kind of funny is there was this book that I really wanted to read that was like Dancing with Dragons, and it was like a really crappy interpretation of pagan things having to do with dragons and roping together a whole lot of dragon-themed beliefs into one book. And my dad and my father outright refused to let me read it because it just like, David, you're the kind of person that would actually believe this stuff. I was like, but I want to read it. It seems so cool.
But if you had grown up in a different household, let's say that your parents did expose you to more religion, do you think you would have grown up differently?
That's difficult to say. I mean, there's a picture that's around the internet that I absolutely love. That's like, if Alexander the Great chose Mithraism instead of Christianity, then we would all be Mithraites, but I'd still be an atheist.
Okay.
Because it's like, judging from how like my head works, I doubt it. Because I would just I would test it like crazy. Knowing me, I would probably just go like, all right, here I'm going to pray with this group of people to make this card fall over, and I'll try to.
Do you think that's a good way of assessing, like, making something happen, like a miracle or something? Do you think that's a good assessment of like religion? I feel like you're putting all your faith on one thing, like, not faith, but you're saying if a God exists, then this will happen. I feel like that's a very bad assessment of religion.
Then what's a good assessment of religion? Oh, I also meant to say my dad and my brother, because apparently I said my dad and my father.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
I had a mother. Anyway.
So I feel like what a lot of people say is that, well, X didn't happen, like I didn't get cured of cancer, or whatever it is that you're looking at. Like, this didn't happen, so therefore there is no God. I don't believe in any sort of religion. And it's like, you can't just say, oh, this didn't happen, therefore I'm not going to have faith in anything.
It's like, well, to be fair, I freely admit that there's definitely a whole lot of people that don't believe in a God for that reason. Mostly that the God doesn't do positive actions for that person. But in general, that's not the reason.
That's what I've heard from a lot of people, though. So I'm like, well, that's not a really good reason to not have faith in religion. But
I kind of say it would be. I don't think it's the best reason, but okay. I mean, if the God doesn't do anything, then why call it a God?
All right. Well, what about
that's Epicurus.
That's a branch of Epicurus.
It's the problem of evil.
Yes, as part of Epicurus.
And also, I hear from a lot of people is that God, like you said, God doesn't do good things. But I'm like, well, what about us people? We don't do good things either.
No, I'm not even saying that God doesn't do good things. That God doesn't do anything. There is no detectable. There's nothing detectable from God in reality.
That's what deists believe in. That somebody just created.
Well, I mean, there's no real reason to think that either.
Yeah,
I understand the outlook. It's an easy cop-out. God started everything, therefore God gets the credit for everything.
It's funny because like I'm technically, even though I'm an atheist too, I'm technically still the oddball of the group in that, you, David, you were raised in a non-religious setting. Izzy was raised in a non-religious setting, and I'm an atheist that was raised in a somewhat religious setting. So I guess, my path to atheism was a bit different from you guys.
Yeah, like what was it? Like, how did you detach yourself?
That's a good question. Well, first, I'm gonna go into a little bit of something that's not exactly religious, but Santa Claus. The whole thing with Santa Claus. I once believed in Santa Claus, much like most other kids in America, until I started kind of testing to see if he really existed. I just had like this mindset as a young child. I don't remember what age I was when I stopped believing in Santa Claus, but I started noticing certain patterns that just didn't make sense. For example, since I was always a nocturnal person, I was usually up late. They were like, yeah, you should be sleeping. I'm usually up listening to the adults, drinking, having fun, but I didn't hear any chimes or bells. I didn't hear any reindeer hopping on my roof. Then again, I lived on the first floor of the apartments, but in any case, there was no chimney. We had no socks around. And I've noticed that...
Dante, stockings.
Stockings. I'm sorry, stockings. And I also noticed that Santa Claus's handwriting tended to change quite a bit. And most of the time it resembled my mother's. So my parents never told me that Santa Claus didn't exist. I found out on my own. So that's kind of where my free thought began. But then as far as God is concerned, and my mom was the one that usually pushes. My grandparents believed it, but they rarely mentioned God. But my mom, and even to this day, she still once in a while tells me that Jesus or God is going to make everything okay. I've noticed that, and I did this test where if I prayed for something, it would either happen or it didn't happen. But if I didn't pray for something, either it happened or it didn't happen. So I've noticed that this pattern that no matter what I did, whether I prayed or didn't pray, something did happen or something didn't happen. So it's like, wait a minute, why do I believe? Do I believe in this because my mom does? And it started making more sense that, wait a minute, there's really no reason for me to believe in this God. And then I started noticing other religions. I was like, well, wait a second. Wait, there's God, but here's Zeus too, and here's Ra, and here's Thor. So we have all these other guys, so who is right? And I kept dabbling on this on my own. And eventually I just came to the conclusion that, wait a second, so these religions, these gods, they are endemic to their respective societies. Maybe this part of the world believes in this God, this part of the world believes in this God, and the place I'm in so happens to have this God. And I was like, but at the same time, there's no reason for me to believe in this. So eventually I came out to my parents, my family, and told them, my mom started spewing the Jesus stuff again. I was like, Mom, I don't believe in that stuff. And it just blew everyone's mind. They're like, what? You don't believe in God? Well, how can this be? Blah, blah, blah. And back then, when I was a teenager, I really couldn't explain it. It was just like, these things don't make sense. God isn't for me. And now that I'm 29, I'm able to further explain... excuse the elephant running in the background. I'm now further able to explain why I do not believe in any deity whatsoever. But I also note that I cannot prove that there is or isn't one. So I still maintain that position as well.
Neat. I will say that I did a similar thing, but it was kind of and I'm sure this is extremely common to anyone that is exposed to a lot of religion in their life. Well, first off, even though I wasn't particularly raised in religion, I was still exposed to a lot of it.
Okay.
You live in the U.S., you're not going to avoid it.
No.
But one of the things, I think this happened in high school for about 10 minutes between several periods, I guess, like over the day. It was just kind of like, I went through the whole Pascal's wager thing. It was just kind of like...
Do explain for us non-scientists.
Pascal was, I forget exactly what he did.
He was a mathematician.
But one of the things that he brought up as one of his big things about religion is like, you know what? I should believe in Christianity, because if I follow Christianity and it turns out to be wrong, then whatever, no harm done. But if I don't follow Christianity and it turns out to be right, then I'm screwed. I'm going straight to hell. So that's the general idea of Pascal's wager, is that you better believe in it or you're going to go to hell.
Huge fallacy.
It's an enormous fallacy. And it took, because I had the nagging thing in the back of my head, oh damn, if I don't believe in this, then I'm going to go to this horrible hell that people keep talking about. But then, immediately after, I'm just like, oh, well, wait a second. The Egyptians have a hell. The Norse have a hell. Every religion has some kind of hell or afterlife or some kind of thing having to do with the consequences of not following that religion. And it's just like, they can't all be right.
So
it's
you might as well believe in them all because, they're all wrong and it's
the easiest answer is they all can't be right because they're contradictory to each other. But they can all be wrong. So that was an easy transition from that nagging thing I think of while going between history and math. What?
We're just going around the
floor.
Yeah.
Okay, Richard walked in.
Go ahead.
The elephant.
Oh, thank you.
I can eat that.
Well, no, you can have it.
Don't.
Jeez, that's all Michael now. Sorry about that, guys. Humans are feeding.
Well, as some of you know, I was raised Catholic the first 8 years of my life. And, I was, I didn't really like going to church because it was boring. I don't know any kid who does. And then after my first communion, we kind of stopped going. And, I didn't really say anything for a while because I didn't want to bring attention to the fact that finally I said something. I'm like, aren't we going to church today? And I was like, well, if you want to, we can. And I was like, no, I don't want to. So, I didn't really think about religion for, a couple years after that. It was one of those things, occasionally some kid at school would say something about, my church did this or something, and but it always felt like something I had to keep hidden. I was just I couldn't say oh, my family doesn't go to church. I couldn't say that. I felt like I was pretty much the only one. I think that when I was in 5th or 6th grade, my one friend did find out or whatever, and she got very concerned about me, and for a good long while, I want to say till maybe 8th or 9th grade, I legitimately believed that I was going to hell. I legitimately
scary.
Yeah, I was I remember she was telling all these people at our lunch table, she's like, well, her family doesn't go to church. She's like, but once Isabel's out of her, household, away from her dad, that way, then she can, follow Jesus. And so, it was definitely it was something wrong with me.
Just to interrupt extremely briefly. This is just a general thing, especially what is taught to children.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it goes through a couple of different names. One thing is the religious belief creates a disease and then offers the cure.
Mm-hmm.
But then the one that I like kind of better is religion creates a God-shaped hole in your heart.
Yeah.
And then shoves their fist into it.
No, but it's funny. I remember thinking to myself, this one time when I was my mom was driving me somewhere, and I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, please God, realize that I don't want to be in this household where we don't go to church. It's not my fault. I remember having these thoughts, and I remember thinking, because we watched this video in 7th grade about the Mayans, and they presented this thing oh yeah, the world's gonna end in 2012 or something. In December 2012, I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to be in college. I'm like, well, maybe the summer before that, I can start going to church and I can repent. I had that, and it
was the Mayans, not the Christians, that predicted that.
Yeah, I know, but I had that in me, and there was times that I felt so alone. I remember in 7th grade we watched another video, same history class. We watched a video. It was called "Walking with Caveman," produced by the History Channel.
Is it David Attenborough?
Excuse me, I have no idea.
I've heard of it though.
But I remember, I had this one friend, and she's to this day she's a super creationist. doesn't drink, doesn't believe in, she's just very, straight and
I
narrow.
keep having to interrupt you. Does it sound better, everybody? I lowered it. I lowered the initial volume so it can actually hear the ranges of our voices instead of just blaring in your faces all the time. So let us know in the chat if it sounds better. Go on.
I do remember she's, to this day, she's still very straight and narrow, very, very Christian. I heard a story that she threatened on telling her roommate for, drinking or something, something, ridiculous. And I remember, we went to lunch after we watched it, and I mentioned it or something, and she said, that's not true, right? And I remember thinking, I'm like, well, yes, it is true, but, I didn't say anything, and, I did believe in evolution. I did, that was definitely, ingrained in me. We watched, Inherit the Wind and all that, and then, ninth grade, I actually got really interested in Judaism, which is really weird. And then, but it was so, such a game to me. I was just like, I'll just be Jewish. It was just it wasn't I remember I mentioned to one of my mom's coworkers or whatever, and she's like, well, you do realize, that would mean, you're not, you'd have to say you don't believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. It didn't even faze me, I was just like, yeah, it's cool. And she was just like, oh, well, I don't know what happens to Jews when they die or something. She was just like, she
nothing.
Yeah.
You don't have hell.
So, and then I was in a church production that summer, and I remember I guess that's when I started to be really against Christianity in general, because I remember we have these small group of discussions or whatever, and the guy's like, okay, let's go around the circle and find out how everyone feels about church. And I'm just been like, oh god, and I remember there was two other people who were non-religious, and the one kid's like, well, he's like, religious people have always been really nice to me. And then the other kid's like, he's like, I really like the architecture in churches. And I was like, I want to be Jewish. And that was the showstopper. I was just like, oh. And then 10th grade, I started looking at my dad's atheist books and stuff. I started sneaking them out of his room and all that. And I wasn't really 12th grade. I really decided I'm an atheist. But
atheist books. Cool.
Yeah. He had the Gone Delusion. He had
wow.
He had Atheist Universe. He had Letter to a Christian Nation. I looked what's going on over there. But I often wonder, what direction I would have ended up going had my family stayed religious. Because on one hand, I really didn't like church. I remember that from a very young age. I really didn't like church. It was really boring. I remember even I kind of rebelled in Sunday school or whatever. They were telling a story, and I scooched myself away from the group or whatever, because and they're like, remember, you have to be part of. I remember I just did not want to be there, and nobody else was like that. It was just me, and but at the same time, I went through this whole thing where a lot of my friends were really religious, and they, it had my family stayed religious, it probably just would have been enforced by my friends, So, I don't know. It's a good question. It's a really good question. But I think...
Was it particularly difficult for you? Other than the hell bit, were people ever nasty, really nasty to you?
That was the most, I remember this one friend, I felt every conversation we had, it was, she always brought it up. It was just, it took her years to, finally make her realize, I wasn't going to change. And, I'm trying to, people were just usually kind of, surprised, oh. They're just kind of they're like, well, at least you're not a Satan worshiper. And I remember somebody said, they're like,
you have to believe in Satan to
they're
worship.
Wow.
They're like, I can deal with atheists, I just can't deal with Satan worshippers. Is that I remember somebody told me that one time.
It's you're lucky. Most people think they're the same thing.
Yeah. That's the main thing I remember just kind of dealing with. Just kind of feelings.
Oh, is it Oscar's friend?
Oh, wait, can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Okay, the one thing I did I do think is really great about having non-religious parents is they were really open to me kind of like exploring whatever I wanted to. Like, there was a point where I wanted to be like Wiccan or something, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, like, just do whatever you want. Like it's not like they were ever like, no, we're atheists, like, get that through your like, like, it's not like they ever had like a point like that. Like
it's South Park agnostic thing.
Yeah, precisely. I was just watching that
we
the other
don't know!
I was just watching that the other night. It's so funny you should bring that up. No, but like, and like, when I wanted to be Jewish, they're like, oh, that's cool, like maybe I can get one of the Jewish families in school to bring you to their temple or whatever. Like, it was so chill. Like, my parents were so chill about it, which most parents would not be. So, okay, I'm sorry. I just talked like everybody's ears off, so I do apologize.
Growing up atheist. Or not. Go. Also talk much louder.
Okay, yes. When I was younger, basically, my mom was Jewish and my dad was Christian. I mean, Catholic. Well, it's just the same thing because for some reason people think that Catholics aren't Christian. Whatever. My dad was from a Catholic family, and he was Catholic, and my mom was Jewish. But since, like, the whole entire thing about marrying a Jewish person if you're Catholic was all messed up because you weren't really supposed to do that with the whole religion thing, they made me choose. They said, here, you can choose a religion. Any religion. But here's the catch. I didn't know any other religion besides Christianity and Judaism. So I was trying to pick between those two. And then I went to elementary school, and I was in 5th grade, and I learned about other religions. And I'm like, there's other religions? And the teacher was like, yes! And I'm like, oh, okay, they must be all fake because nobody believes in them. Because I thought that only there was the Jewish side and the Christian side, and you had to pick one because if you failed, you would go to hell. So it was like, okay. So I began, I was like 13, and I was about at the time where I become a Jewish man, but I decided not to be Jewish. I decided to be Christian when I was 12. But here's the kicker. My friend was Protestant, which is different from Catholic, and I said, oh, let's be Protestant, because, my friend was Protestant, and he went to a church, because I just wanted to hang out with him. Later on,
it's one of those, like, you like grape soda? I like grape soda.
Later on, I became really religious, and I think there was something mentally wrong with me, because I kept on thinking...
Choose your sequence of words a little better.
Well, I do. Because
Actually,
I kept on thinking.
Agree.
No, because I kept on thinking that that if I go to sleep and I dream about something, because I was really into dreams and the subconscious mind and everything, I thought if I dreamt of building a giant steeple and a church to Jesus, then Jesus would really like me. And I kept on thinking about that stuff. And then I'm not listening to Richard, he's just rambling.
I heard you speak. Church for Jesus.
And basically this went through my mind. It wasn't until high school where I became an agnostic. So I I don't know either way. I don't care. And this was during the time period where I was actually watching the debate between the Amazing Atheist and what was that other guy? Ben and Fang X.
I still haven't seen that. Where is it?
Oh gosh.
I
link it to the page.
I don't know. But they were having an argument. I was thinking if I'm Fang X, I'm like, well, other people are Muslim. Why does he have to be mean to the Muslim people? And I was thinking the Amazing Atheist was some evil guy because I kept on hearing he was such an asshole. I'm like, I kind of like this guy. He's pretty funny.
Because he's
and he makes sense. And then later on,
he doesn't back down.
I began talking to my teacher, who happened to be really Christian and stuff like that. He was talking about it in the school, and this was a private school, by the way. I was going to a private school for people with autism and anger problems. Autism, not anger problems. But anyway, But anyway, he was talking to me about like how Christianity was right and stuff. I'm like, how do you know? And then I began questioning certain things in the Bible for like my feelings of like, that's not very nice. That's not very nice of a thing to do. And then I began questioning the Tower of Babel. And I'm like, this is bullshit. And then I basically was like...
Language.
So when I was in 12th grade, I said, alright, I'm an atheist. And everyone was like, like all my friends didn't care. All my friends were like, oh, okay, good. Why are you talking about this? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I told my teacher that. And he's like, you shouldn't become an atheist. I'm going to make you become a Christian. Because that's the way to go. Later on, I began...
They should be fired for that.
It's a private school. They can do what they want.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially when they're helping people. They can always do what they want.
And when I was looking, looking online more and more, I began watching a lot of atheist videos. And then, after, I don't know, 2 years of becoming obsessed with these atheist videos, I said, fuck it. Let's do... Sorry.
Terrible at this.
I said, let's just watch something else. Let's watch something scientific. So I began just not really becoming an atheist person, the only thing about atheism. I thought about science and all the other stuff that I didn't know, and including history. I was always big into history, and I began studying on my own and in school on different religions. And when people talked about them, I knew even more about how to refute them with Christianity and stuff. I told them my entire history of Christianity. Yeah, this, and this happened. Therefore, you're wrong because, it was all made by people. And one last thing before I go. I find it funny when people come up to me and then they're like, oh, you're an atheist. You must hate those Muslim people. And I'm like, you understand that Islam was one of the best religions back during that time period, and I go through Suleiman II and how he was the first one to actually make religious freedom back in the Middle Ages. The Middle East. So, now I'm kind of more of a spiritual atheist, and I believe that our minds are different from our brains, and that the neurons and electrical impulses don't actually go away, and that they go recycled back into the universe as a collective consciousness.
Okay. As we all sit here counting the number of breaths he actually took, Aksa.
Like I stated, I'm sorry. Like I stated earlier, I'm actually not an atheist. The reason I joined this group is because I do like to think about stuff, not just blindly have faith in something, but actually think about it, question it. That's why I am a scientist, because I do like to question. I like to know what's out there and just going through the whole scientific process. And I am a Muslim, and when looking at the history of Islam, everyone sees Islam as this horrible, horrible religion where everyone's so extreme, but it's actually not like that. If you look at the history behind it, there was a lot of sciences, there was a lot of math.
Al-Haytham.
What?
Al-Haytham is probably one of my favorite Muslim scientists.
Yeah. They were all about the sciences, they were all about all that good stuff, knowledge, wisdom, but it's now that, actually the United States funded extremist groups in the Middle East and stuff, so you see all these crazy people, which I do not want to have anything to do with them. I absolutely hate them. They are ruining religion for me. Or ruining religion, Islam for everyone in general, because now everyone thinks, oh, everyone who's Muslim is this crazy person, but we're really not. And growing up, I did grow up in, a semi-religious family. They weren't too crazy or over the top with it. We did pray, we did go to the mosque on Friday, but, it wasn't all the time. It was usually, we went for a lot of the social stuff. They would have fundraising dinners and just regular dinners and stuff like that. We would go for mostly that. But after I left for college, my parents started going to a different mosque, and they actually have more extremist values, in my opinion. And after they started going there, they started becoming, at least my dad started becoming way more religious, and I'm I don't know how I feel about that, because those people do have a little bit of an extremist point of view, and it kind of creeped me out sometimes.
Well, I mean, a thing that I actually just commented on the, I think, atheism page on Facebook. Anyway, the only difference between extremism and liberal religion is which parts of the book you feel like following.
Yeah, that's true.
But that means that they're both equally supported.
But I'm saying, like, they... It depends. You have to look at the
Welcome to Philadelphia, everybody.
Oh my god, is there a race like going on? Like,
That's really annoying.
I have to get it and see.
Yep, so that just happened. Go on.
And so you have to look at the historical context and when those, like, certain passages were written. Like, they were written in a totally different time period.
So the good things should only be taken in context, and we shouldn't follow them today?
No, I'm saying, like, a lot of the things, like, where it says, like, about jihad and all that stuff was during wartime. There's not a war going on right now.
There are a lot of wars going on right now.
Quite a few.
But not religious wars. Like, okay, maybe...
Yes, there is. Quite a few.
Okay, from my perspective, there's no one, at least in America, trying to, like, harass the shit out of me because of the religion that I follow.
Don't go to the south.
Alright. Okay, you can disagree with me, but the way I see it is that everything was taken in like, you have to take it out of context. Like, they'll pick one, tiny little passage out of an entire book and try to
but,
justify
I mean,
what they're
like,
doing.
Like, this is what I brought up just a second ago, was I could say exactly the same thing out of the good parts. Is you're taking just one little passage out of the book and not taking it in context. Why are you following that but not this extreme part?
I have to say
Because the extreme hurts people.
Okay, so what if you don't think it's actually hurting them, it's helping them?
Well, then you're just messed up. I'm sorry.
Well, what's the difference?
What's the difference?
It seems like the only
Okay,
difference...
the way I see it is, if it's for the betterment of humanity...
You see, that's what... Yes, people legitimately think that if I blow up these buildings, it's for the betterment of humanity.
In what way is it you killing
You're
people
you're
a better
destroying
way?
the evil in the world.
That's really sad, because they are the evil in the world.
Like the hurricane. People thought the hurricane was sent by God, and that was a good thing.
It washed away the sin.
What hurricane? Sandy?
Sandy and Katrina.
Also, all the earthquakes and things happening over in those other countries where they're on fault lines.
Well, it's not their fault that they're on fault lines.
No, but I'm just saying,
No
like...
pun intended.
No, this is why I'm... Lost some train of thought for a second.
Science.
No, this is just what I bring up whenever anyone says, like, anything about extremism. My phone's dying. Is that the only difference is your own willpower. And, like, from what you were saying, it seems like the only reason you think that those parts are bad and the parts you like are good is because you think that those parts are bad and these parts are good. Is there any other justification?
Behind why I follow the religion that I follow? Or
Well, the parts of the religion that you follow.
yeah, why do you follow it? I'm just
Why do I
yeah,
follow
I'm
it?
not like attacking you. I'm just
well, mostly
purely curious.
it has to do with the way I was raised. I was raised in a semi-religious family, but
Do you think that's a good reason to believe things?
no, I'm saying that's a part of why, because, like, that's how I grew up. And that has a
Well, I
huge
understand that.
impact. It has a huge impact on who you are because that's what you've known
It's very
growing
cultural.
up. Yeah, it's a cultural thing. But the reason I choose to continue to believe it is because I do believe that it's a good religion. There are certain people that do take it to the extreme, but there's good things in it too. It does promote, like, sciences, the maths, seeking knowledge and wisdom, and
Well, I mean,
looking at the history of it.
it also supports the opposite. It depends on which parts you're reading.
Remember
okay.
the imam we talked to?
Yeah, the imam we talked to.
What do you, Mom? Oh,
There was an imam that visited Drexel
yeah.
relatively recently, and he outright said you cannot be a Muslim and believe in evolution.
Yeah, you can. There's a lot of Muslims that believe in evolution.
According to this apparently high order imam, you can't be, because it's going against a lot of the teachings. Which
Well-
honestly I would agree with. It is going, like, I don't think, to be fair, I don't know nearly as much about Islam as I do about Christianity. So I could be completely wrong on
Well,
the
they
origin
stem
story
from
stuff.
similar ideals.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, for Christianity, you can't believe in evolution and be a Christian.
Well, because they say, like, the Earth is
without
only
doing
3,000
without
years
doing
old.
no, you can't without doing a whole lot of mental gymnastics. Because the whole point of Jesus existing, well, a primary point, is the Adam and Eve story. and if the Adam and Eve story never happened. So then why did Jesus have to die? And if Jesus didn't die for that reason, then why is it our fault?
Well, see, in Islam, we don't believe that Jesus died to wash away everyone's sins, or that's what I take away from the Christian version of it.
Well, it's kind of like washing away the sins the same way a debt company can pay off all your debts.
Yeah, like,
but then you have to pay them back.
That's the way I see it. Like, Jesus died to wash away everyone's sins. But in the Quran, it says, well, this is what I took out of it. Like, I don't know if this is what it says 100% because I don't know Arabic. I can read it, but I don't, like...
Practice it.
Yeah, like, I don't understand it because I don't speak it. It's not my mother language. But from what I understood, Jesus was killed because the Romans, I believe it was the Romans, like
They were Romans.
The Romans and the Jews really did not like him, and they're like, we don't like this guy, let's get rid of him.
They gave him a whole lot of chances to stop saying what he was saying so he could stay alive.
Yeah, but he sincerely believed in what he was saying, so these people are like, oh, Bill, we don't like what he's saying, let's kill him.
Yes, Richard?
That guy back there's
Well,
dying.
a lot of
so.
things to say. First of all, I totally 100% disagree with the fact that just because you were raised to believe some way means you should always go by it. What if I was raised to kill people all the time? Like,
Then you most likely will do it.
No,
if you were raised that way.
No, I mean,
Is
Dante was raised Baptist.
I'm not saying that everyone stays the same, but I'm just saying how
That's like-
you're raised has a huge impact on who you are later on in life.
No,
having a
no,
seizure.
Yes, it does.
no,
Yes, it
no,
does. Don't
no.
disagree with me. Nature
Rick?
versus nurture.
No.
The answer is both.
You can't help how you're raised, but how you're raised does not have to determine your faith.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, but it does have an impact.
You made a choice.
It
you
might.
choose to keep
No, it might have an impact. It depends on the person.
No.
I just agreed with you.
I'm sorry, but no.
Standing up.
I came from a very terrible family. Now, I know that's not everyone here, but no, my family was terrible. My mom left me when I was 21, and my dad, well, he was just a jerk.
Like, Richard, this is going on the internet. So
Yes.
do you want to keep talking about this?
No, not exactly. But the thing is that if you were raised, and if you were raised to feel or express a certain amount of emotion towards things, or I don't know. If you were raised a certain way, it's not always right. That's what I'm trying to
I'm
get
not
across.
saying that
You're not-
I'm right or the way that you're
but
raised is
But
correct.
that's the thing. Oh, so many people, they're like, oh, I was raised this way, so it's okay for me to never question it at all and just believe in it. And I know
I
you're
did
not
not
doing
say
that.
that.
She
No,
does
I know
question.
you're not.
She does.
That's why I'm here.
I know you're not saying that. I know you're not saying that. But you have to totally break away from everything.
I don't have
That's
to.
what you have to.
I don't have to.
No, no, you
I
don't
have the
have
right.
to.
I have the freedom to do what I want to.
No.
I live in America. I have
I
certain
know
freedoms.
that. I know that.
Well, we can get on that subject later.
Okay, I have certain freedoms to a certain extent.
If you want to question, you should question. You always should question, even if you don't want to question it. I saw cheese over at the supermarket, right? I saw cheese, and it said American cheese, and I questioned.
And then look
"Is
at the
that
made
real
in symbol, the
cheese?"
made in China.
And I looked at it.
American
and then-
cheese is a melange of random cheeses.
Made in
I
China.
researched that cheese online and I found out that's not real cheese. American
not.
cheese is not cheese. But that's the thing.
It's plastic.
There's so much we need to uncover before we just... Yes.
All right, Richard.
In
Okay,
Ox's,
then.
in Oxa's defense, Richard, you have to understand that. You gotta remember that Oxa is, well, from what I've gathered from her story, that she is somewhat different from her parents. So she's making the choice to stay within the religion, but knows that she's not following her parents toe to toe with every single thing.
Yeah.
So she is making her own choices. There are certain excerpts
It's like-
within the religion
it's
and the
that's-
lifestyle in her.
It's like... we have 30 seconds left.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
No,
No, we got 30
there.
seconds. You gotta close it.
Okay, so thank you everyone for listening to that. We are the Drexel Free Thought Society. Please email your questions or comments to drexfreethought@gmail.com. Listen to the rest of the show that starts up at 6. This is when we want to hear from you guys. especially for the topic of raising atheist kids.
'Cause we don't know about
raising
raising
kids
kids.
without a religion. We know some of you guys have kids, so we'd love to hear about it. Please call in, give us your comments. Goodbye.
Cheese.
I want some cheese now. Thanks.